Hello everyone. This is the lecture video for database systems for week number 5. We are over the hump day by the time you are watching this. So I am, as usual, sharing the week number 5 in Blackboard. There is the usual objective list. Here's the instructional material. There are two attachments, and there's a typo here that you should pay attention to. The format of the Blackboard attachment has changed. So the ones that are files are being attached, they're showing up at the top rather than embedded within the text. So that's a little bit different. But anyway, so here's some assignments here. Let's take a quick look at it. So there's the project idea. Well, now is a good time to start thinking about your project, what you want to do, because it takes time to come up with a project idea. And basically what you're doing is you're trying to set up a mini database. So there's a flow and the steps and things you got to do, but you can begin to think about what you want to do. Some examples would be I want to create a database for online store, maybe a records of a patient's bike shop or whatever, right? And they all need to be fake ID or fake data. I don't want you to be using the live data from your company or whatever. That would be not so kosher. So, but anyway, I think of some ideas and share it in the discussion board. And then there is a lab activities that I'm assigning. Do all 5 of them. And then there's also a ERD assignment that I'm assigning. So I'll show you how to do this as well. But if you go back to the main page, there is the lesson plan. So when you download that, you should get, let's see, you should see this. So I will follow the outline here. Just a couple of introductory comments. It may not be as timely since I'm recording the video early in advance, but I am seeing most everyone is getting on with the program, so that's good. You've been busy with installing the VirtualBox, the App Server OS, and the SQL Server, and by now the AdventureWorks. So you're now able to actually do the some of the exercises that are typically done. But as a potential DBA or being, at least you should know what is involved in installing all these things. So that, I hope that was a good experience. Another comment that I want to say is typically this is the highlight of the course, meaning that people who don't know a lot about database management system, they think, not always, but sometimes they think the course is about writing a SQL script, which is true, but that's not managing the database. That's more to do with managing a data, and that's just only one way. But either way, a lot of people are looking forward to this portion, so we're having it. Just to give you some tutorials resource on the SQL, there's ones that I kind of like, so you can go out there and use it in W3 schools. There are plenty of other free SQL websites that you can visit, and whatever works for you is helpful. That's what it matters. The goals for this week is to cover the chapter 6 and 7 in the theory book, but 4 or 5 in the lab book, as well as to have an idea for your final project. Okay. Just looking at your textbook. Let me bring that up. So here's the textbook. Chapter 6 talks about the data manipulation, and chapter 7 talks about SQL data definitions. So if you go to the chapter 6, data manipulations, you'll be writing scripts on how to utilize the scripts to manage your data. And then for 7, this is for defining data types and stuff like that. So it should be pretty helpful for you. Then let me bring up the lab book. And here's the lab portion of your SQL primer. Chapter 5 talks about that. And so I think it'd be good for you to go through all of the exercises and experience. Let's see, a couple other things to pay attention. I made a list here. SQL statements are generally case insensitive, meaning you can use a lower or capital, but there should note some conventions. For data manipulations, you'll be using select, insert, and update and delete. And then there are a few other comments I made here, but I also wanted to make sure that you kind of hear from me. So when we create a table, and you'll probably see it in the ERD instruction, that when you have multiple rows of data, then they all need to be arranged in a particular way. And so we use what's called a key and primary key to sort them and order them, but maybe not necessarily to order them, but to identify them, right? So we'll be using that. And then between the tables, if they are related, then we will be using what's called a foreign key to say how one table is related to another's, because we'll be updating a table record which may affect another table, right? So the primary key is, again, used to identify a row in a table. Foreign key is used to link the relationship with another table. Let's see. So just looking at some of the assignments here, I mentioned about the discussion posting about your final project. Again, I made some comments for you to read. Looking at some of the lab activities, I made a lot of detailed notes on the assignments here, one from chapter 4, but all of the rest of them are from chapter 5. So just go through them. There is no serious issue other than the typo that I made a comment on that's noted in the Blackboard. Let me now show you how to do this ERD assignment. Maybe the best way for me to show you is I'll just make a note that I'm going to show you this, and then just make a comment about next week, which is week number 6. We'll talk about the security, and then we'll talk more about the project detail. Okay, so let's look at the ERD assignment. So when I come here to the Blackboard, this is what I'm talking about, and here is the instruction on how to do it, or what you need to do. It is also posted on the instructional materials section as well. But basically, you're going to look at this, download it, and then do what it says. So let me bring it up. So here's the ERD assignment, how to do the ERD. And basically, you are asked to create this a diagram. And I like you to use what's called a lucid chart. You can use whatever chart you want, but for the sake of consistency, I like you to use lucid chart. And so let me kind of demonstrate to you how to do this. But let me kind of go through this first. So this is where you need to go. This is what you need to create. Here's some steps that I'm showing you how to actually do them. All right. And then you also need to make sure that what you created in here is actually going to work on using the online SQL Fiddle, right? So test it out. Well, there's a lot more here, so I'm going to have to trim this down for you. So look at it after I guess you can only look at it when I'm done. So let me get over there and show you how to do this. So when you click on this link, you'll be, I'm going to move this out of the way so you can kind of see, you will be landing into a Lucid homepage. But I already created an account. There is a free edition and there's a paid edition, but you can just create a free account for this assignment. But anyway, so when you after you create an account, you can just start a new. Let's see here. So I'm going to click new here. Lucidchart document. You can only create 3 documents for free. So I'm going to just use the one, this one says a blank diagram. So I'm going to just use that. So here's a blank one. Let me see if I can get, so you will see some of these here. And you're going to need this. But let me see if I can make it a little bit smaller here. Okay, so yeah, doesn't really matter. But anyway, basically, what you want to do is to click on this entity relationship, and if you don't see them, you just need to edit from the options here. But all you need to do is to create, something like this. So you're going to need 3 tables that are 3 columns each, and we're going to create some links using the arrows. Okay, so I'll put this on the side here a little bit. And so if you look at these guys here, this is the one that looks like what I have it in my assignment, right? So you just click and then just drag it out here, right? And then you're going to need 3 of them, right? So here's 1, 2, and here's a 3. I already did it up here, but you can kind of make it a little bit bigger. Well, that's just, so you can type it here. You can say, customers, if I can type, and then you can just type it, PK. You can say customer ID, and then you can play with it to make it bigger, stretch it out, or stuff like that, right? So that's what you're going to be doing. And I won't type everything in here. You can do that, and you can kind of saw me how I'm doing this. Some of these you can just get rid of them, just double click on them, delete, or whatever. But here's the primary key that I mentioned to you. So here's a table. Table name is customer, and it'll have records containing these columns of information. And this column, I know this is so this column here called customer ID will be the primary key that will be used to identify all of the records in this table called customer, right? And because it is tied to or linked to another table called order table, when it references that table, it'll use the foreign key. And this foreign key, the name of that foreign key should be the primary key of the table that is linked to, right? So make sure that they match. The primary key, when you begin it, you can be whatever you want. But once you start it, you can't really change after the whole thing is set up. That's how you create these tables. And here's the third column is your data type that you want to use for that indicated a column entry. ID could be an integer, and you should only have integers in there. The names should be a varchar or variable character of, and if you want to specify the length, it should be 25 or whatever length you want to specify, and you can play with however you want it. But for your final project, you may want to think about what you want this to be, and you always want to define the length of a data type to be the maximum, right? Because you can't really say 25 and then provide, well, I need 30. Well, that'll take some effort to update and change, right? It's not impossible, but you want to avoid those things. But in terms of these relationships, you can just simply come here and just use, oh, not that. You see how it is connecting right here? And so this says, gives a particular relationship. One record from here can be many records over here, right? But if you want to change, you can come here and choose, let's say this one right here. You can say start would be, you can say choose anyone from here. You can be, let's say, 1, and then you want the end to be only 1, then it changes, right? But you can change to 0 or many options here. And these are what we call the crow's feet because it sort of looks like a crow's feet. But anyway, so you can do that. And the reason why I made this exercise, the middle part has the many and the other one not many, is because this is what we call a junction table or middle table that it needs to be existing if this table and that table, whatever they may be, you don't want to have like one of these guys. You don't want to have many to many, right? If there's a possibility of many records here are linked to many records here at the same time, it would be very confusing. So the updating and the data integrity would be compromised. So this is a no-no, right? So the way you get rid of this is by putting on the middle table, and the middle table will have split this guy apart and put this in there, right? So get rid of this and put this in, and then assign the relationship to one side with 1 or whatever you want it to be, but not a many one. And same thing on to the other one. Okay, so that's the reason for this. And then once you do that, there is a nice feature that I'd like you to know about, and that is this export here, right? So once you do this, and if you click on this export, look at that. What that does for you is it translates the tables and the relationship that you created into a SQL script. Isn't that amazing? I think that's a really easy feature here. So, but what you got to remember is you need to pick one of these. So we're going to be using the SQL Server. So, but maybe before you do this, you want to take a screenshot of this and paste it on the Word, so that I know that you created it, right? But anyway, so here's the export again. Click on the server, SQL Server, and then click copy it to clipboard, right? And then you're done. So if you, let me bring up something here. So let's see if we actually copy that, if we can bring up maybe a notepad plus plus or whatever. And if you right click on it and then paste, lo and behold. Now this doesn't give you, it only gives you a table creation script. So, it's not everything, but at least it's, something. And I think it's nice. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you got it, and then test it on the SQL Fiddle. So let's go over there. So I just opened up the SQL Fiddle here, and the first thing you want to do is to come up here and select the SQL Server 2017, and then click, and then right click, paste. Okay, so make sure you got everything there, and then click on the build a schema. And it should always work. It may not work because of some internet connections or whatever, but we didn't write it. We just got it straight from the Lucid chart, so it should always work. All you need to do now, I mean not now, later, is to populate the data using the SQL inserts and stuff like that that you'll learn from this week's lab exercise, right? So um, then that's pretty much all you got to do. Take a screenshot of this one saying that schema is ready. Okay. So let me bring up the how to do the ERD. So we did this part, and now we want to try the SQL in SQL Server. So let me set that up, and I'll be right back. All right, here we go. So I spun up the SQL Server in VirtualBox. Why do I keep saying Visual Basic? But anyway, started the Server Management Studio. Just connect it in, and you can expand the database. You can right-click on the database and say New Database, and you can give it a name. I don't know, ERD test or something like that, right? And then say OK. So here is the ERD test that you just created. And then you just make sure you choose this and then click on the new query. Maybe before you do it, you can expand it and their tables. They're no like a regular tables, right? And you need the script. So what I did was, let me see if I can make this a little bit here. I shared the script in my shared folder. See, where's the type? Here's the script that I sent. So you can open that up and make sure that it looks okay. And you can just copy this guy here. Minimize this guy, minimize that. You can just paste it in here, right? Just like that. Make it a little bit smaller. And then you can run execute. And commands completed successfully. So take a screenshot of this. Let me take a quick screenshot of this as well. I think it's already there, so I don't really need it. And then now, if you click here, you don't see anything, so you probably need to refresh it, right? Refresh. And if you click on them, now you see those tables here, right? So that's how you create maybe a brief series of how to do these things. So let me bring in the assignment for the ERD, and I think that's pretty much it. So yeah, so let me go back to the lesson plan here and say that that was the ERD assignment. Okay, so hopefully that kind of gives you a good idea. I went over the lesson plan here. I made some comments about introductory items, what we were going to do, things to pay attention to. I just recapping the things that we talked about, discussion board posting for your final project, and the lab activities, and then there's ERD. Okay, let's go back to the, not this one here. Let me pause. So here we go. Back to the week number 5, a list of items here, and here are the assignments. So that's what you want to do. So this sort of wraps up the lecture presentation. I know this is a little bit longer than usual, but I wanted to make sure that I covered everything. I hope you guys have a good week, and just looking forward to receiving your work. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. Okay, take care.